Now we will have a look at the pivot table mock exams number 1. This is a rather huge mock exam. There are 8 questions involved. So we start one by one. So let's have a look at the exercise A1. First of all, we have this data set which has quite a few lines. It counts to 189 lines. And based on this data set, we will create several reports using pivot table. And normally you would have your mouse cursor on the cell A1 and then insert the pivot table. And in this case, you will find a small problem. Here in the row number, you see the selection is onto row 94. And when you drag it downwards, and you will see there are actually 189 rows. How come there's not everything selected? So here is the problem. In the row 95, there's no data. So when you put your mouse cursor on A1, it will start selecting all the way, but until the place that you don't have data anymore. And that's what row 95 did. So in this case, we have to get rid of the row 95 and do it again. So let's quit the pivot table creation, delete this row. This one is extra. And now we have a full table to the row 188. Let's do it again. Choose A1, insert pivot table, and this time you see the row selection is to K188, and it will be in a new worksheet. That's fine. So click on OK. We're in this new interface, and we will have the pivot table fields. In this side, we can organize the table, and we have the real table here. Now it's empty. We need to achieve the exact same table as the screenshot on the syllabus shows. And here we can see on the category part we have Shrep, and that's a filter. And that filter, how can we tell that category is a filter? Is because the cells are in the first row, and normally the table starts in the third row, and that makes us to know the category should be in the filter part. Alright, and we then start constructing the real table. We have the amount, and the amount usually contains value. We go to the value part, and that's the total of the amount. And the amount is further identified as by supplier name, and that supplier name could be in the column or in a row. First, let's put it in a row. Yeah, the format is similar to the screenshot you see on the syllabus, so we know it's in a row. Let's try again. If it's in the column, what will happen? This one will become a very long table. It certainly not look like the screenshot on the syllabus, so we will use that in the row instead. One last step is to choose a category to Shrub only. Okay, and if you compare this one, let me enlarge that part for you. If you compare this table to the screenshot on your syllabus, you will find out this one is the exact match. That's the exercise A1. Let's rename the exercise A1, and let's continue to exercise A2. Now we will do the exercise A2. So the same procedure, since we already cleaned the data set, now there's no empty line anymore. The same procedure is to select A1 and then insert the pivot table in a new worksheet. So here we go again. And if we look at the screenshot on the syllabus, there's no filter, since the first line and second line on the table does not have an empty line, empty row. So that's an indicator to see that we don't have a filter in this table. And what we have there is certainly the amount as values. The amount is almost always values. And the other parts we need to choose whether it's column or in a row. And we have a similar situation as the first one. We do have the supplier names, and it's organized in the same way as A1, so it should be in a row. And we also have category as columns, so we choose the category to the column side. Here we see more options than the screenshot shows, so that means we probably need to get rid of all the other irrelevant parts, only leaving annual and biannual data and grand total. So how can we do that? We can either choose to filter it here with this button, or we can choose to filter it here with the same effect. Let's first deselect all and only select annual and biannual. Okay, now we when we compare this data to the screenshot, we achieve the exact match of the screenshot again. That is exercise A2, and let's rename that to A2. Okay, and the next one is A3. Well, in A3, we of course start with the same thing again to create an empty one first, and then we will see that in this time we do have a filter, and that filter is category, and let's put that in the filter first. And then we have sum of amount, year of purchase, and country. So for the row, we know it's year of purchase. That's where the supplier's name are in the last exercise. And for the amount, it's always in the values, and the column, we define that by country. So here we have a table, and this table looks similar than the table you see on the screenshot in terms of the structure, but the numbers are quite different. So first what we need to do is to adjust the category to tree only. Okay, this one is much similar and without the blank column already. So in this case, now it's almost our answer. We see there's a small thing different in the column labels. It doesn't show the word country, but that one is a minor detail. You can easily just change that by yourself. So F2 is the key. That's if you select the cell B3 and press F2, then you can change the name to country. Alright, that's the answer for A3. Let's rename that and continue to A4. A4 again, choose the cell A1 and insert the empty pivot table. Yes, and the next step would be put the category in the filter section. So that is almost the first step we do. We see whether the table has a filter. If it does, then we just need to move it there and leave it to later. Okay, let's enlarge this table a little bit and see what else we need. Well, we basically need all the information, but in this case we know again the amount is in the values, and since all the other information are organized one by one, so let's just select them we can just click on them. By the order we click them, it will be organized in the column or the row just as the order we clicked on them. So first order number, then city, then country, supplier code, supplier name, plant code, plant name, and next we have amount again. So it's already clicked, but now we can drag it to here again. So it's okay, we have 2 times amount in different sections. And the next one is year of purchase. The final one is the month of purchase. So here we have rather large table, and it's unlikely to be the to be the answer, since in answer we only see a very small table, and we need to change some settings. So first of all, we need to have the design of the pivot table changed. So just now we're always working in the analyze part of the pivot table tools, and now we are going to the design part. So here we go to design, and then we choose the report layout as show in tabular form. You might ask, how can I figure out all this? It's not taught in the syllabus. So that's the idea of this exercise, to encourage you to explore what's possible with pivot table. Just we give you the screenshot, and you have to figure out how can you make your table look as much similar as possible to the screenshot on the syllabus. So I tell you the answer straight away. Probably you need to try it many times. To be fair, I also tried quite a few times before I find out tabular form should be the right layout. Okay, so now we see it's more organized, and the next step is do not show the grand totals and do not show the subtotals. So here we have a cleaner view, but still a very large table. So let's see what's the next step. The next step would be expand or collapse these little buttons. So to change that, we need to go to the Analyst tab again and choose Options. Under the options, we have a display. That's where we can click off the Show, Expand, and Collapse buttons. So let's do that. Click OK. Oh, yeah, it's still a lot, but the buttons are already away. So let's see if we can do in these sections. We do have a lot of rows, and we do have values in both the column and the values section. Let's try if we delete them all, only leaving the titles of rows, and let's see what that will do. Let's remove the values and refresh. Yeah, okay, there's basically nothing changed, so that means the values doesn't matter. So we keep it this way. We do not need the extra value setting. And comparing to the screenshot doesn't show you all the data, but show you the specific category called trees. So let's select tree and click OK. And let's adjust the view. This is exactly how you see it on the syllabus. Yeah, much smaller table, but until the very last step, you will not achieve that. So just feel free to try many things and see eventually what kind of information it will present to you. So very useful tool for your business analytics. But first of all, we tackled this question. That's question A4. a tough one. Let's move on to exercise A5. So again, create an empty one, insert pivot table, okay, and in the exercise A5, we first of all notice that there is a filter called year of purchase, so that's in the filter section, and then we have months of purchase in the row and countries in the column. So by this time you should be familiar how the data is presented, is whether it's in the row or in the column. So this one, the months should be in the rows, and then the countries in the column. Okay, and we are missing some values, so let's move the amount to the values. So we have more or less a similar table as the screenshot shows, but we are still missing a part. It's called count of amount. Now we have sum of amount, but we are missing count of amount. So sum is the total, but count is the number of a certain amount that shows. So in this case, we need to choose the amount again in the values, and that's called sum of amount 2. But instead of keeping it as sum, we change it to count. So it's here. When we go to the value field settings, we can change this as show values as summarize value field by count. So here you have count and sum as two parts, and how can we organize them just the same as how the screenshot shows? So in this case, in the value part we already achieved that. It's just all those values appears in the vertical columns. So if we want them to appear under January or under February, probably we need to move them under the rows. And now you see the values are actually under the columns. We just need to move this part to the rows. Here we see a quite similar overview, just that the year of purchase part we should select to make sure that we have selected a similar year than the screenshot. And on the screenshot it shows 2004, so let's only select 2004 and click OK. And here we have a quite similar view than the screenshot. But what's different than the screenshot is that these two parts are under the months, so not next to it but under the months. So it's a matter of different versions of Excel and different choices of design. So I would argue that this is not much difference than what you see. So one last change we need to make is that you see some percentages under the count. So it's not just the number but as percentage. So that's something we can fix by changing the value field settings and show the values as percentage of, I would guess it's a percentage of the column total. Let's have a look. If not, we can always change that. Exactly. So this is how the screenshot shows. One last detail is the amount of decimals. We can change it. So here, value field settings, number format, and under numbers we choose 0 decimal and click OK. Okay, yeah, obviously they are all lower than 0, so that's why it's showing it's only 0. So that's probably not correct. Let's go back to home and choose the percentage part. And not only for this one, we should format everything as percentage. So let's quickly fix that. Number of format should be a percentage, and decimal place is 0. Okay, just now I chose the number. That's where it went wrong. So percentage, decimal place 0. Click OK. Here we go. Yeah, this is the answer of exercise A5. Let's move on to the next exercise. Before we do that, again, change the name of the sheet. So the next one, exercise A6, is about Jacob's different types of plants from different suppliers. Alright, so let's select A1 again and insert the pivot table. The pivot table is created, brand new again, and this time we see that there's no filter, but we have supplier's name as the rows and the category as column. And we see in the category we have not everyone's amount, but only a selected few. So first we use amount in the values, and then if we compare the number between what we see here and what we see on the screenshot on the syllabus, the number is quite different. That's because here we see the total number of a certain supplier, but what we asked in A6 is just the number of different types of plants. So that means we should not use the sum of the amount, but we should use the count of the amount. So let's change that. So we just need to count how many incidents or how many products that our suppliers have. So this one is quite realistic, and in this case the Jacobs want to know the top 3 of these suppliers. So not all of them, but top 3. So let's see where we can define the top 3. So here under the value filters, there is an option called top 10. Let's click on that. And this top 10 is can actually be changed. So let's change it to 3 and click OK, and it's by count of amount, not sum. That's fine. And here we have 4 of them. Let's compare the answers. It's the total is not shown, so we need to get rid of the grand total. As we learned before, we go to design and grand total, turn it off. So no more grand totals for us. And how about, the grand total should be gone in this row, but there should be a grand total on this column. So we cannot choose the same as before to turn it off for both the row and column. Let's first bring it back. And now we choose again. So in our case, we keep it on for column only. We still kept the wrong one. So we keep it on for the rows only. That's it. So we still have the grand total here, but not anymore in the bottom. So that's great. Let's make it smaller. And here we see this one is not exactly ranking as the highest to lowest. So what we can do by column, and that's also count for each and every other columns. If you want to sort the output, you can right click and you can right click and then go to value field settings. Here we don't see a sort, so let's go out again. So let's try above here. We have to have a sort of these ones. Yeah, here we go, but it's not clickable. So let's not try with this one anymore, but let's go to the row labels and see if we can sort there. So here we have sort A to Z and sort Z to A. That's probably about the names, so that's not what we want. What we want is that sort by grand total. So let's move back here and change that with more sorting options. And in this case, we don't know if we want the highest number on the top. Is that A to Z or Z to A? First we try A to Z and sort it by count of amount. Click OK. That's indeed lowest to the highest, so we need to do one more adjustment. More sort options, descending, and count of amount. Yes, you see, after so many tries that we eventually end up with exactly the same as the screenshot. However, there are also two more small parts. If you want to change this one and that one to the category and supplier name, you can just press F2, then it's in the editor mode. So, but for now, it's okay, we leave it like this. This is exercise A6. Let's move on to exercise A7. So the exercise A7 is asking you not to make a report anymore, but make a chart. However, the chart is also based on the report, so we want to know what's behind of this chart, and then based on that table we can create a chart. And so here we have a new worksheet with a new pivot table, and what we want to have here is the category, plant name, supplier name, and sum of amounts. So that's of course based on the instruction. If it goes too fast for you, please read the instruction again, and you can also see from the chart what kind of information is involved. So first we have the category as a filter, then the plant name as column, then the supplier name in the row, and the last one is of course the amount in the value. So here we have quite a scattered table, and based on this table we need to choose what kind of information we want to show, and we only want to show the category annual, and that means not all but just one of them. Click OK, and here we have a certain amount of information. And if you have a look at the chart only shows two of the suppliers. One named Bobland A, and the other is Zopuf A, and we leave these two only. So let's deselect all from the supplier names and only leave Bobland A and Zopf A. Okay, click OK. Here this one should be our foundation to create the chart. When we create a chart, we just need to select, a part of the table, and then we insert a chart. And here we have a chart. It will give us a overview to see how it looks like. This one looks very much like what we see on the screenshot. So let's choose this one called stacked column. Alright, let's see something else is different, is that we have actually a clickable interface here, and that is due to the different versions of Excel. So that one we can disregard. Let's enlarge that to show all the different categories. And another very significant difference is that the color is different, and also the background is different. In terms of the background, we can select it and go to the design part of the pivot chart tools, and here we see there are many more designs, and this one looks quite similar. You see there are minor grades instead of very large grid as background. So let's choose a style 10, and in terms of the colors, we can change the colors here to be able to match, but that's actually not a very big issue. Let's see by any chance if we can find the exact match as the screenshot. Actually, this one is the closest, so let's just go for this one. That's probably the original one we see, just a little bit darker. Alright, that is exercise A7. Let's save this chart, A7. Okay, let's move on to very last one of the report. By the interface, it looks like a easy one. Let's see if that's the case. First, we create a new one and then click OK. In the filter part, we see the category again. So here is a filter, and then we have sum of amount, plant name, and country. So let's put them one by one in the right place. Amount in the values, row with plant name, and in the columns we have country. So we have a rather large table here again, and the category is all, which is the same, but the country should be only Austria. So let's filter that, deselect all and only choose Austria. Alright, and we still have a larger table than the screenshot shows. Based on the instruction, it says show the 5 most popular types of plant. So 5 most popular type. So not everything, but just the 5 types of most popular one. Just now we practice with the top 10, and let's go ahead and choose the top 5. So here we have the sum of amount, and then we can go to, where is the list? Oh, here we go, the value filters, top 10, and let's change the top 10 to top 5, and that will be based on the sum of amount. That's the only option. That's fine. Click OK. We do have the top 5 now, and the very last thing we need to do is to get rid of the grand total in the rows. So now we should know, we go to design and grand total, and do not show any grand total. Oh wait, we still want grand total by the column, just not to the rows, so on for columns only. So with this one, that exactly look like the screenshot for A8. Alright, congratulations, I guess you achieved everything of the pivot table mock exam 1. Let's save this one and call it a complete video. So I will see you in the next video about another pivot table mock exams.